Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to us or watching us. Thank you for making the Sports and the World podcast a part of the day. I'm Adarius. I know it's been a while, a little hiatus, but I'm glad to be back here. We're recapping arguably maybe the biggest WrestleMania ever? Question mark, dot. And I couldn't think of anybody better to come on, to come back on with my buddy Tanya Ray Fox, news editor at Fox Sports. And how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm excited to finally get some thoughts out like live on camera because it's been a lot of venting to people in like text messages and DMs and then like yelling to Chris at home. But like across the course of that, I feel like I've fine-tuned my thoughts and my emotions, most of which are really good. Like I really have so many and I was sort of live tweeting WrestleMania, so there was like, some live thoughts coming out and then there's obviously like I'm probably on like a very small margin of people who had a different opinion at the end, but for the most part I had so much fun, and I am excited to talk about the things that I liked, the things that maybe like weren't my favorite, but also just like how cool it's been over the last 5 days or so to kind of reassess from my first reactions to where I am now. I'm just ready to like get it all out there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I put the disclaimer. I put the disclaimer out there and said that listen, there at some point during the show, there's a good chance you'll take over. And listen, we agreed upon it. Listen, we're a mixed tag team. Okay, so we just tag
Exactly.
each other. And people who don't know, I kind of teased it. It's because of our heights, which we think is gonna. We're not gonna focus on the athletic stuff. We're just tall. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna
We're
figure
tall. Where you can't tell when people are tall on a podcast. You're
you.
just
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
what?
yeah. I mean, for all I know, I could be sitting on a stool, but I'm not.
I think we give tall person energy, hopefully. Hopefully we
Yes.
give that type of energy, but you never know what you're giving on a podcast. And realistically, were we to step into a ring, we would be a large duo.
Yes.
So we take that responsibility of being a sort of the body guys of the tag team world really
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. So we don't joke around about it.
No,
The promos will be great, but in the ring, it's all business.
exactly.
Speaking of business, let's jump on in. Talk about night one of WrestleMania. You know, night one was night one was pretty good. And kicking off night one was we had the man Becky Lynch coming in as the challenger to face Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. And I'll say this briefly and then get your thoughts. Now I'll put mine on the back end. I like both entrances. When it comes to WrestleMania, the entrances, everything is bigger. It's the grandest stage of everything is bigger. I got into a little debate on, which I try not to do on Twitter or X when they
You
asked
try
about like,
not to debate on Twitter. That's the opposite of me. So
yeah,
can't relate, but go
I
ahead.
can't relate. Yeah, see, I try not to because here's the reason why, because I know how far I can go,
Yeah, yeah,
and
of course.
it's like there's hours in a day, and I'm
Well,
like
especially
there,
with wrestling, right? It's like
yeah, it's
it can get a little hairy. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the rabbit hole that you read about in Alice in Wonder. It's kind of like that. It's where you kind of get lost. And I debated that, hey, when I saw Becky's entrance, I thought it was different. Like I understood the audience at Lincoln Financial Field couldn't see it, but for those like watching on Peacock, she was sharing excerpts of her book, and and then kind of like at the end, she kind of went through the book, and I thought it was pretty cool. And someone said, "Oh well, we didn't," and then the guy showed me a picture because he was there of a crowd. Nothing, not during Becky's entrance, mind you, just a picture of people filing in to WrestleMania. Oh, nobody cared, and I'm like, I don't want to do this, my guy. I don't want to
Hmm.
do this. Like I'm trying to give you the out, and then from there, well, but anyway. So with that, and then Rhea's interest was fantastic. Had the live band, the live interest. I love those as well. But I want to
Yeah,
get your
Ria's was actually probably my favorite entrance of day one. Like I think the entrances, I mean, we'll start off light here. I think they were a little bit lacking compared to
yeah.
past years. I wasn't like, not that I really like, they're fun when they're fun, but it's also not something that I like. need to enjoy it. It's just cool when you get good ones, right? So it's like, like Bianca's when she had all the little girls, like there's ones that stick out in my mind that were really cool, but like I don't need them. It's just cool when we get them, right? So
Right.
that's fine. It doesn't, but Rhea's actually was pretty sick. So that was cool.
So yeah, and then I was like, so that was nifty. So I want to get your thoughts on the match. I'll share, like I said, I'll share them on the back, and your thoughts on the match, and kind of, did you see where it was going? Were you right, wrong, and just kind of how you the overall feel of the match and your thoughts that kicked off WrestleMania 40.
Yeah. First of all, I thought that it was a good match to kick things off with. Rhea's like so set with everything. She's just like set. She's so set right now. She just can't go wrong. So she didn't need a later spot per se. I think it was a good way to kick it off. You want people in their seats because they're going to want to see it. It's Becky. You can always expect that. But like, it was the match that you expect. There was no way in hell they're taking a belt off of Rhea Ripley right now. That was never happening. And that wasn't the point of that match. The point of that match was for Becky to continue putting Rhea over. What I think before, obviously, she takes a break.
Yeah.
That's we've seen it coming. Her and Seth have been running themselves into the ground, and the match went the way it's supposed to. They're not for me, and I like how I feel about Becky. I think Becky is one of the best in the business at character work on the mic. Everything else, she's incredible. She's not my favorite in-ring performer. A lot of mostly just because like for her size, because she's gotten so small, and she doesn't have the skill set of a small wrestler. Like I have nothing wrong. Like I love Zelina Vega. I love a luchadora. I love all kinds of movesets, but like her moveset is very like, I'm strong, but she's like 120 pounds or whatever right now. So something's off to me with like the way she looks in ring the last like year or two. It's like a very small nitpick. Like it's not anything I'm like mad about. I just don't know that I was ever going to think that match in ring was great with Rhea, just because I think there's other wrestlers that wrestle Rhea better. And I think there's other wrestlers that Becky does better against. They're just kind of an odd match at this point. They're both super professional. They made it a banger as much as they could. Especially with us knowing that she was going to win, like Rhea was going to win. We were still invested. Rhea is the ultimate right now heel that everyone loves. So that was cool. And it took nothing away from how much of a like beloved, baby face that Becky is right now. It took nothing away from it. It's just sort of like the perfect, let's kick off WrestleMania with two people we're really rooting for type of match. That's how I feel. I would love to see them do a little bit better with the choreography in match for Becky specifically, because I think what she brings to the table is really, really important. And I just feel like it's been off with her for the last like year or two. I can't put my finger on it. But like that's such a small nitpick, and it's only because her bar is so high that like I feel like I can be a little nitpicky with Becky because you're talking about a goat. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I can be a little nitpicky with her because she's a goat, just like you should be with anybody. It's the same idea of like when Patrick Mahomes looks off, you're going to be really picky because that dude, when he brings it. So, hey, you got to like, the bar's higher for you. I'm not going to expect the same stuff out of CJ Stroud. Right. So that's how I feel about Becky, but otherwise I loved it.
Yeah, it was great stuff. Before I share my thoughts on my buddy here dropped in, saying hello to us all, Craig. Thank you so much.
Hey, Craig.
Craig, for tuning in so much. Love him, wrestling fan as myself. Now, I think a lot of the sentiments I knew going into the match. I was talking to Kitty for your thoughts, who good wrestling guy. We had a similar thought process about this match because it was something Becky said. She had a look on her face. I think it was a press conference. It was something like that. I had the vibe that she was going to take a break, and I couldn't remember the exact words off the top of my head. And I said, going into this match, I said, well, we may not see Becky Lynch for a while. And to your point, you alluded to the fact that when you look at what she's done for the division, and we're not just talking like Raw, SmackDown, and she's behind the scenes, in the ring, putting people over, great storylines she's been in. The break is deserved. But for the match itself, I look at Rhea Ripley, and dominance is what I think about, and her role. Like to me, I don't really think of her with the Judgment Day. To be perfectly honest, I don't want to be the guy that says she's outgrown Judgment Day. I don't want to ruffle feathers there, but it just feels like when I see her and I look and I go, I can see her being I can see her being the champion all the way till SummerSlam. I can see her being the champion for the rest of this year
I would love
because
for her to have like a Gunter kind of run with that because I
yeah,
think she can do it.
right,
And it's
and
funny that you say that about the Judgment Day because you're not like, I think we're on two sides of the same coin where I actually think she's like, because she's the leader of the Judgment Day, like it's like the only way the Judgment Day works is with her. So
yeah,
it's like, I know what you mean because she's an entity outside of the Judgment Day, just like even in like lore, in WWE lore, the way we talk about her online, the way she behaves online, the way she interacts with fans and stuff, and both, you know, in person and on the internet, she's got her own thing. But like in a lot of ways, she's the only reason the Judgment Day still works because she
yeah,
has the pre-existing relationship with Priest and that chemistry there, and the chemistry that she has with Dominic, and that like ties everything together. And so, you know, I don't know. I think it's like only adds to her greatness that she is a member of this faction and the most important member of a faction and the most dominant women's champion that we have right now, you know?
yeah. And I'll say this before I put a button on it. I think if you give her a reign like Bianca Belair's reign, you give her that type of reign, I think there's so much you can do. And in my mind, I go, I can see her, and I'd have no problem with her having the belt the rest of this year, for as long as possible, because in my mind, as we saw like on Raw, we saw like Liv Morgan shows up and attacks her. By the way, excellent camera stuff there. Chef's kiss by WWE there.
The new guy from the sort of ousted dude from ESPN has started doing some cool stuff
Yeah,
for the WWE. We don't have to talk about what happened. I don't know what happened. All I know
yeah,
is that now he works for WWE and they're doing some cool camera work. So you're
yeah,
welcome. That's sports TV coming in and working. Like, I mean, this is right up my alley. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, of course, the camera work's getting better. We're getting into real sports. Triple H is leaning into sports, not
yeah,
sports entertainment. This is sports.
yeah. And so I'll do this as well. Sports. No, we had
It says
sports.
sports right behind us.
Yeah, it says
Sports.
yeah, sports. Yeah.
Sports.
Where's the end of the world part? Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Was I signaling? That's a no comment for me. But what I would like, to your point, like with the camera work, like I say, great stuff. And you saw like Liv Morgan, maybe the next one up, maybe potentially at Backlash, or I don't know how they're going to build that moving forward. But I just see Rhea as just so dominant, where she can hold on to the belt until they build somebody, or could be
They
somebody.
just gotta wait for Charlotte to get back.
Yeah,
She's got to do what Gunter did and like run through every woman alive, and then whenever Charlotte can come back, then Charlotte, gets her 19th belt or whatever.
Yeah, I lost count after 15, I think.
Well, she got to like 13, then they took one away to make it more like, because they were like, now it's too many, so now so I think she's back up to 13.
Yeah, so I'll get the math department at the podcast working on. How do we count it? Look, I don't even know.
It doesn't matter.
It's just a lot. It says you're managing editor. I know what it says. I know. but anywho, so it's kind of shifting gears, and then we also kind of get. We'll go with Jay and Jimmy Uso from night one. I'll say this, and I kind of talked about this on another podcast, where I love both of them, but this match just further proved to me what I think I knew, and kind of maybe what other people knew. I can't speak for everyone. That Jay was always the better singles competitor. It confirmed to me that as much as I like Jimmy, and I really like Jimmy, to me that match, the way it was being built, it was built up to be, brother versus brother. It wasn't like no Undertaker Kane or Bret Owen Hart type. It wasn't that type of match we get like every 15 years. It feels like at a WrestleMania. To me, I enjoyed it, but something felt like, to your point, kind of like when you talk about Becky Lynch, something just felt off. in this match. I couldn't place my specific finger on it or anything like that. It was a great match, mind you. It wasn't flat because the Usos. Listen, they're great competitors, but something just felt off, and it's one of those things that where I can't put the finger on it, but I enjoyed it. I saw the best of what they can do, kind of like a back and forth, a tete-a-tete. So it was a good match, but something just felt. I don't know, was the energy? I don't know whether it
Well, I
was.
think, I mean, if I don't
Go
want
ahead.
to, say for you, but like, I just think the storytelling it's not fleshed out for them enough. Like, it's been a sort of abandoned storyline. They'll just be like, oh yeah, and the Usos are fighting. Jay has had like a lot going on his own as a singles performer, which is why, I mean, we know he's the better singles performer because he's been performing on his own for
Yeah.
a long time now since they split. While Jimmy's mostly been locked up in the bloodline doing bloodline stuff, the classic bloodline stuff, and he's been preoccupied with that. And like their sort of randomly meeting and staring each other down has been very flat because they haven't really like for those two to have turned on each other and to be in this much of a beef to the point where they're like, obviously we'll get to what happened on Sunday, but like it should be a main storyline in WWE. Like this is a massive thing. And I do think that they're going to have to come back around to it. We'll get to probably what's going to happen with the bloodline in the future. But like right now it's just super stagnant, which is weird. It should really be a much bigger deal. Nothing will ever replicate how good they are together. So, that's the issue with tag team, with breaking up like iconic Mount Rushmore style tag teams is like you see them in the ring against each other. It's never as good as when they're alone. I mean, as when they're together, like if they're facing each other, and like the Usos together in the ring is like as magical as it gets for a tag team. So like, it's just always going to be a bummer. I do think there were some moments that were really cool when they were like mirroring each other, that you can only ever do with twins and like brothers of like that level of closeness, that I thought were like just visually looked really cool and were executed really well because they move so similarly to each other. But yeah, at the end of the day, like Jay is the star right now. And, I mean, like they just had that 4-man first what was it, contender match for the title that he just won, where he won by kind of default because Punk came in. But like it was really funny because I'm like watching that match and I'm like, what are they going to do if they're going to have Jay and Drew in it? Because right now Jay and Drew are kind of like at the top of their game, like which one of these guys is going to win? Of course, I don't know where my head was at. I was like, of course CM Punk's coming out. But anyway, so I just think that like, yeah, it's a bummer because they're both super, super talented. Jimmy's incredibly funny and like just really, really good in those promos. And Jay's iconic. He's just an iconic dude. I am hoping that this is going to be a summer where we flesh some stuff out a little bit more and give them more to work with in that beef, because it just felt undercooked. It felt like so undercooked. I mean, and I'm not even necessarily going to blame anybody on that. Like, I wish they deserved better, but like there was so much going on and they were pushing The Rock and Cody so hard, and that came sort of out of nowhere. They've basically kind of admitted that, that like, I think they probably had more for the Usos and it had to take a back burner, which for me as a huge Jey Uso fan is a bummer, but also you cannot not put it on the back burner for the Cody, Rock, Roman stuff that we've been getting. So it is what it is. We'll hopefully we get a rematch that is worthy of Jay and Jimmy and their storyline and the bloodline and how big of a deal and how they not only their feud is, but how much they've meant to the WWE as part of the bloodline for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I think you kind of hit the words I was trying to, get out. It didn't feel to the level where I thought it should be. And listen, there's factors like you mentioned, obviously, Rock, Cody, you got it. There are other things going on that kind of made this match not feel as important. And I don't blame Jay and I don't blame Jimmy, because there's a lot more storyline wise between these two. And it just felt in the ring, you didn't, and the crowd kind of felt it. And I felt the crowd, listen, I don't blame either one. I really don't. But speaking of tag teams, we had a ladder match for the tag team titles, and I'm just gonna say this:
It was glorious.
I'm gonna say, first of all, I think they got both how they split it. I think they both got it right.
Yep.
But for me, my guy is someone who needs to be protected at all costs. I don't know, would they pay more taxes, or
I'll pay more taxes.
if we have to do what we have to do, if we have to, what do we have to do? Kickstart. I don't care what we have to do. We got to protect R-Truth at all costs.
And we are, and that's the thing. I think all of WWE universe has agreed, like, we're on board. That's our dude. There's not a single living soul that watch. I think he's the only thing we agree on. I think not you and I, but like as a unified wrestling audience, I think there's one thing we agree on. It's that R-Truth is our king, and not one bad word about him. And that's it. That we have one rule we all follow. We don't mess with R-Truth. That's it.
Yeah. What's American Treasure? And then it was even cooler the next night. His hero, John Cena, came out, and I'm like, you know what? I felt happier for R-Truth than I did for me, just seeing, it was
the best.
It was great. But going back to WrestleMania, it was great in that moment to see R-Truth all those years in the company. We tend to forget that he's pretty good in the ring. We tend to forget that sometimes because
he's still really good. That's a really good point. It's actually kind of crazy, like how undervalued his ability in the ring still is, considering how often we talk about like how washed The Rock, and like, I mean, The Rock has trained so hard to get back to where he is, and like same thing with Cena. And I know that they've got a lot going on and their training is different and all that stuff, but like what R-Truth can still do physically is as good as anyone's ever done it at that age. I can't really think of anyone who's ever been better than where he's at his age. So it's a good point, and we don't talk about it enough because obviously everything else with him is like amazing, and he doesn't look any older than he has in the last 15 years. So it's confusing.
Yeah, because it's funny you say that, because I remember when he made a run. I think like it was like for the United States, I think with like him and Cena had like a little thing. It was like 15 maybe years, and I'm like, I look at the picture of him then, and I look at him now, and it's like when they show you like The Office, like both of these things look the same to me. Like he looks like he's the same dude.
Yeah,
it's like if you ask me who's R-Truth in 2024, and who was R-Truth back in 24, I'm like they're the same dude. And as for the tag team, I think everyone got their stuff in, and I'm glad they gave Waller and Austin Theory the tag belts, because I feel with both of them, like especially for Austin Theory, I felt like for him, like going back to when he was we had the briefcase. I think once again he didn't control the situation. Some other guy whose name was now be spoken, he kind of had a control in that situation, and it was very unfair to him at that time, especially kind of during that time frame. And so I'm glad to see them get the SmackDown belts and kind of seeing where they go from there. But for R-Truth and for the Miz, and when they said they were the first time winning, and I'm like they were a team back in the day. I'm like, they never won the belt. Thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking surely they won. They were giving tag team belts back in the Attitude Era, and then the era after that. I'm like, they were just giving belts to anybody. But it was a great moment, I think, for me, for R-Truth winning at WrestleMania.
And the Miz. I mean, the Miz is like again, like he's just like grinds it out and has been so good for so long with like really no breaks. Like the Miz has always been there holding it down. I've said this before. I think that like his level of professionalism and doing what needs to be done to fill a show, whether it's Raw or SmackDown or a pay-per-view, and always not only being willing to do it, but like being everything they ask of him.
Yeah.
Like I think he's one of the best in the business at it. And there's obviously a reason he's so respected and has the accolades that he has, and is given these opportunities in these moments. Like you don't get here with R-Truth, and R-Truth doesn't have that moment without the Miz. It doesn't work. There's no other person that works with. And I'm not saying that to be I'm not exaggerating. Like there's nobody else that can do it the way that the Miz has done it for him and with him. And obviously like they have the history of the Awesome Truth from before, but even right now, there's still no one in either locker room that could have done this and like nailed it as perfectly as they did and made it believable that they could have won the titles. Like that's a huge deal that to make it and sell it, and especially against extreme, like these are some of the most athletic people in the WWE are in that match. You know what I mean? I mean, like we're not just like Waller and Theory are like insane athletes. Like these are dudes that are like, they're like Logan Paul level athletes. And then, Johnny Wrestling flying around, Ciampa flying around. I mean, talk about another dude who's like not aging physically. I don't know what's going on with Ciampa either. Like just like that jump off the top of the ladder was insane.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, and like so all these guys are like, genuinely really it just worked out so well because they now, you give the opportunity to the Awesome Truth and they're the face. You've got the heel guys with Theory and Waller who are like great, amazing. Like just what a way to bring Theory along, as you sort of alluded to, like it's just been perfect. And now you've got these up and coming tag teams with the New Catch Republic, like coming in and being like the guys that can go after these titles and will get titles. I can't imagine they're not going to grab a title at some point. I can't imagine DIY is not going to grab a title at some point. They're both on that trajectory. It's perfect. Like they're just building them in all the right ways. And they're all guys that are like workhorses that we all root for. These are not new young guys in the mix. Like for Ciampa and Johnny Wrestling, for Gargano to be in their first WrestleMania, and like knowing how important that was, that when it's important to them, it's important to us. How amazing, So like they delivered on a lot of storylines in that, the British strong style thing coming in. Oh my God, how cool. And then we've got R-Truth finally getting a title at WrestleMania. And we've got like the young up and coming, athletic dudes winning the other titles. Like I think that it was as good as they've done in a long time with a group of tag teams in WrestleMania, especially considering there were no Usos and there were no like New Day to like hold it down and be the OG tag teams.
Yeah, and to your point, and what I'll say is this before we transition is that what I love about these type of matches, and like I said, you kind of hit it right there on the head. You're getting this amalgamation of storylines, and it makes the match more interesting. Because as someone who loves stories, and I've said it in previous times we've talked, I say it on any other opportunity I get to say it. I love storylines. The match itself is told through what we're seeing. Story. I kind of look at it as like a cinematic sort of situation, and what we kind of saw in that match. We saw Johnny Wrestling. We saw Ciampa. We saw Austin Theory. Great. We saw all these great tag teams. Even the New Day was in there, and the New Day was there to kind of, in a way, kind of put over. And they did like this match here. It may not get like best match of the night type accolades, but it had so many storylines in it where it made it watchable. It made it viewable. You kept your eyes on it. And when they split, and obviously we saw the split coming, I think more so when you saw how the belts were hung, like, okay, they're going to split them up.
Yeah.
But there's no way.
Which was so awesome. So glad that they finally did that because we need it. The tag teams just sucked lately. Like not the tag teams themselves, just like we haven't had because they've been held up by the Judgment Day, who are just like, first of all, they're just not tag team wrestlers. Like I was so sick of watching Judgment Day fight tag team. They're not tag team wrestlers, and not everybody has to be. But like you have to have the personality to sell it. Like The Miz, who can tag team with anyone. He could tag team with you and me, and like he could make us look good. Like they don't. I love them. I love them to pieces. Finn, love you, buddy. The bisexual Undertaker, great. JD, great, love you, but they're not tag team. JD actually probably could be a great tag team wrestler, but he doesn't get enough yet, so we'll see.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I want to share this before we go on for my buddy Craig. Listen, if you don't see him, listen, this is a great point because if you don't see him, folks, it's like now you see him, now you don't.
Yeah,
So
well, that's why you have to listen for the music, right? It's
yeah,
like that's sort of like that's the
like
only way you ever know he's
like
there
if you
is
if
just
you
the
don't
music. Yeah.
if you don't hear do 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 do, then you know. Like if you don't know,
Now
if
you
he,
know. Yeah.
now you know.
hmm
So kind of we'll stick with the kind of the tag team thing. We'll go with the 6-woman tag team match: Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi versus Damage Control. Yeah. All I'm gonna say is this: this match served the purpose that, in my opinion, by putting over Jade Cargill. I think that was the. I think when you put her in the when you look at the teams, like outside, like if you take Jade Cargill out the equation, Bianca Belair, champion, Naomi, champion. You go to the other side, the Kabuki Wars with Asuka and Kairi saying they're the tag team champions, and Dakota Kai can definitely hold her own. Especially, I suggest folks like, if you don't really familiar with Dakota Kai, watch some of her stuff at NXT
She's
because
awesome. Yeah.
and so she the goal was to kind of put Jade over and to kind of protect her to a certain. Because listen, there's still work to be done, and that's okay. But you could not have Jade Cargill on. You could not have her on this card. You had to have her on this card, and when she came in, she did her job. I'm not saying it because I'm wearing the shirt. Yeah,
There's
I wasn't.
never there was no I know you're not just saying it because she's spectacular, right? Like it's I mean, I don't know why it took them so long and I'm not mad about it and I maybe it'll come out or whatever, but like, you're like, "Oh, well they had to, they had to do this with Jade." And in a lot of ways like in past eras they like they just wouldn't have, right? Like this is a huge credit to Triple H and Stephanie and whoever else was behind the scenes that like, they said in their press conference after, the girls essentially like, this was important to us to get to do this. Like
Yeah,
3 Black women on a team at WrestleMania together, like no turning on each other. There's no like, they didn't have to create a feud with Jade and Bianca so that because they're too similar and like there are ways that this goes wrong, and it usually does 95% of the time when other people are in charge of this business
yeah,
or of this company, right? Like it just, as soon as Jade shows up, you're like, oh, she's gonna feud with Bianca. Oh, Bianca's gonna feud with Naomi because Naomi's friends with Bailey and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, like for once they went and they said to creative, this is what we want to do, and it's going to work, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to still put Jade over, and it's going to still remind people that Naomi is one of the baddest bitches doing it still. Like this is all still going to work. And if you're going to have this like cultural thing going on the other side with the Kabuki Warriors, right? With Io and Kairi and Asuka, which I also think is really sick. These are women who've gotten to wrestle with each other for years. These are women who have tag teamed together for years. Like Asuka is one of the most important women who have ever wrestled in WWE. She's like, I mean, a genuine trailblazer. Then it's really cool to see the Black American women get that opportunity as well. To get to represent like their moments and like how important it is to them culturally and how important it is to them to get to be. I mean, Naomi was really emotional about it, talking about the fact that like this is a huge deal. And she like never envisioned that she would get this opportunity to not only be this, but like to be that there with other women who she respects and admires and be there together. Yes, the feuds are coming. Yes,
yeah.
we are going to get Bianca versus Jade. Yes, we are going to get Naomi turning on someone or Bianca and now we've earned that rather than, using Bianca as a pawn to bring in somebody else to feud with. Like, I don't know if I'm expressing it the right way, but that was, the most important part of that match was that we got to see all of them shine and also shine with each other. And that's a moment that Bianca's been a part of a couple times now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting, I want to make it clear that like, I don't think people are fully grasping how important Bianca is to the shift in the women's division, to their shift into speaking out for themselves and creating storylines that matter to them, that they're invested in, that they have creative control or a creative say in, right? She's really behind the scenes been a big part of that. And I think moving forward, she deserves a lot of credit for where things are now and where they're going. So
Yeah, and I'll say this to go back to your perfect attack. Me watching it, when I see Bianca and I saw Jade and I saw Naomi, I knew it was a moment. Being a wrestling
the
fan,
Cowboy Carter outfits. Oh,
yeah, well that helped too. That helped too, America.
oh, they were so sick. They look so
And
cool.
when I saw them, when I especially how their interests, like interests maybe weren't over the top this year, but just seeing the three of
Nah, that was
them
awesome. Yeah.
coming down, and I'm like, I think it was a moment on the SmackDown when there were all three of them were in the ring pointing to the WrestleMania sign. It was a moment when people may say, "Oh, we're not going to make it about," but you can't ignore the moment.
They're making it about that though. So it's
Yeah,
like, and so I don't like when people say that. And I want to make that
yeah,
clear. They
yeah,
have said that this is what the moment meant to them. This
yeah,
is what they wanted. This is what they're looking for. And this is what they want little black girls and
yeah,
little black boys to see. So when you say, I don't want to make it about that, you're undermining what they as
well,
artists and create, not you. I know you don't say that, but
okay, okay, okay.
when fans say, they are undermining the creative and artistic decisions that these wrestlers are making on a very purposeful level. Oh, well, we don't have to make it about that. They are making it about that. They are
Yeah,
explicitly saying that's what they want. When you see that and you see that for the first time at a WrestleMania and you see those three women and then they win that match and they do what they do, it is sending a very strong message, just like lots of wrestlers do all the time. They send messages about who they are and what they represent and what they want. And I want to make it clear that anybody watching this or listening to this that has this feeling that we are somehow pigeonholing this story into that, we are not. That is what it is. So I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it. I'm just telling you that's what Bianca, Naomi, and Jade not only wanted, but that's what they were given creative freedom to do by Triple H and Stephanie and whoever else is behind the scenes. So just if that's something that bothers you, you might want to cope now.
yeah. And what I will say, and the reason why I said because to me it's personal.
Yes.
Because I felt that way. It felt to me the night when Kofi Mania. It felt different. And someone's watched wrestling, dedicated, pretty much their whole life to watching wrestling and seen the things that's gone on. Watched it as a fan, watched it written, whatever, however. I understood, as to your point, and I think everybody should have understood in that moment what it meant. Because I always make the point that this match here, I think there's a chance we get Jade's going to team up with either Bianca or Naomi, because in my mind, because it kind of wrote it, they're going to challenge the Kabuki Warriors. Now, when that's going to happen, could it happen at Backlash? Could it happen as far as SummerSlam? I'm not Triple H, but Triple H is cooking, and I'm stepping out of his kitchen because he knows what he's doing. So just that moment, I think people have to understand how big that moment was, because to your point, I think if this was a certain person in charge, we would have saw something different, and it wouldn't have been fair to any woman in that match, to any superstar in that ring, because I don't, because to me there's deeper context to me if they would have did that, and to me is that it showed that the strength of black women in that match. It showed strength that just because it's the opportunities there, you don't always have to take it. It's just like in sports where people are like, well, why didn't you take the shot, or why didn't you take? Sometimes you don't have to. Like, just because the opportunity is there, you don't have to take it. And people are like, well, no, it's. And so I'm glad that it didn't go that particular route. And like I say, down the road, we're going to get Bianca J, but folks, let's just focus on this.
Yeah.
Let's keep the crystal ball, nearby, but let's just keep it.
We don't even have to fantasy book this. Like it's coming. It just let it breathe. Let it. It's like a sourdough starter. It's got to take some time. Okay.
Exactly. Sourdough bread is great, folks, if you haven't had it. So we are promoting. I think we got a lot of things done. We talked about bread. We talked about promoting, but yeah, I think we're covering a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we're
This,
always going to shout out a random food group.
yeah,
Just sort of that's like our thing. So it's just like, just keep an eye out for that. We don't
yeah,
really promote it ahead of time. You just have to watch and find out what random food we're promoting. And right now it's sourdough bread. We
yeah.
didn't
So
even plan on this. It's just
we
this is
did,
the kind of stuff that you get when you come here for this tag team type of performance.
yeah. We always have a music reference, but that's gonna happen, folks. It's gonna happen. We're
Yeah.
not gonna say who. We're not gonna say. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll talk about this if you want to call it a match. Rey Mysterio, Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio. All I'm going to say on this is this. Because first of all, I don't want to disrespect anybody in this match. Let's be clear. To me, it was a match. And, we've seen Dominic and we've seen Rey. We've seen father and son, beat the living. We've seen it. And then, but what I also like is the inclusion of Andrade. Like,
Yeah.
Dragon League, the Dragon League, mysteriously something happened, yeah. I think that mystery, I think I have an idea. I've watched enough Murder, She Wrote to know who did that. Context clues. So, or if you're Columbo, you kind of saw it coming and you just kind of figure out for the hour and a half. But to me, the takeaway was that we see Andrade back in the mold, back in the mix. And and listen, every WrestleMania we get kind of that spot, celebrity. We didn't have a celebrity match this year. Probably years past we would have had one, but the spot where Dominic Mysterio had the chair, and I saw the mask, and I said, "Wait a minute, I think I know who that is."
Yeah.
And I said, "I think it's a Kelsey," and I said, "We're in Philly, so it has to be Jason Kelsey." And then sure enough, great stuff all the way around. And then when I saw Lane Johnson, I'm like, wait, Lane Johnson still plays for I don't know if Nick Sirianni's watching WrestleMania 40 and like, oh, great, Jason's out there. Like, who's that other mascot? Wait, is that my starting set? Like,
Nick Sirianni doesn't care. I can promise you that. That man, he's the last person to care. The GM and the owner might care, but that madman does not. Yeah.
Nick's probably like, I think I'm go water some flowers or something. But
yeah, no, he doesn't care. I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot this match happened until you just brought it up. That's how little I've thought about it. I all love to Jason Kelsey, of course. When football season comes around, we'll be back on Travis. But I was fine with the break we were getting from the Kelsey brothers for a little while. And I didn't necessarily need that to pop my WWE bubble with NFL stuff suddenly, but I'm not mad about it either. It was fun. He looked like he had fun. That was cool. Anytime we're going to get Rey Mysterio at a WrestleMania, I'm down. So that's fine. I'm never going to complain about it, but it did feel like something that could have just been on a weekly show, and that's fine too. It's whatever. I also don't fully understand what's going on with Dominic and the Judgment Day thing. I'm not I know that they're, it's they're annoyed that he's doing all of this and whatever else. And I feel like we've dragged out the Dominic versus Rey thing for so long now that now I don't care. You had a window of opportunity where I really, really cared, and now I don't care. Now he's got a feud with his other new son, the one that can actually wrestle. So that there's that, I mean, I don't Dominic. I'll give you my first hot take of the I cannot stand watching him wrestle. If that man does a sloppy ass Three Amigos one more time on my television screen, that slow, lethargic, he can barely swing his legs over. He can't do the 619. He's too lanky for it. All the moves he does are these throwbacks to Rey, and don't shimmy. Do not shimmy at me. You do not have the sex appeal of that man.
Oh man,
Dominic, don't tell me I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're not wrong.
So, that's one thing that I'm I think Dom, otherwise as a character has been great. I'm not hating on him, but he's got to find some different moves that are not luchador moves, because he can't do them. I don't know. you can tell me I'm being a hater, and that's okay. But when you've got like some of the best wrestlers in that style also in the match, and I have to watch this dude do a slow motion 619 for the 1000th time, like him doing those moves, he looks like when Snoop Dogg did the People's Elbow. Remember?
I did want to remember it, but I guess we will now.
No, come on. The greatest, the slowest little like run and like
Yeah.
this like nice little bounce he did off the ropes. Like that was funny because it was like a 62-year-old man doing it. Like Dominic, you're like 27 years old or whatever you are. I don't know why you can't find moves you can do, please. That's my takeaway. That's my takeaway from them is like, I want less of that man in rings with luchadors. Okay. That's all.
I think that explains all the boos he gets. I think this, every time I think I've said this on the show before. Anytime Mysterio tries to speak, it reminds me like getting booed like at the Apollo Theater. Like it was like boo. It's like I'm waiting for like the Sandman to come take him off. And I think it plays into what he does. But like I see your point about like if we're going to use the moves, it's like if we could pick it up, that'd be great. If not, I'd rather.
It's not happening. He doesn't have it. Ladarius, he can't do it. Tell me, you cannot tell me you've ever enjoyed watching him do the Three Amigos.
No, I never said I did.
Okay.
Congress.
Don't you dare try to pretend. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like in front of a congressional hearing.
I know. Did you or did you not enjoy the Three Amigos, Ladarius?
Boy, I need to plead the Fifth. And what other amendments can I plead? Yeah, what's due process? Which one is that? Yeah, I feel that one too. Yeah. What's the one? Yeah. 1 through 10 feels.
You don't get Miranda rights here.
No, I feel like I feel like I should plead the first, but it feels wrong.
Yeah, it also feels wrong for me to play white cop on my black co-host here. So I'm gonna maybe.
Oh no, you're not. Listen,
maybe we should steer away from this weird role play.
But I think the takeaway is this. The takeaway is this, and we move on. And so I do want to talk about. To me, we got to talk about Intercontinental title match: Gunther versus Sami Zayn. And I'm going to say this, and then I'll have thoughts on the back end. But I think with this particular match, I think people may not like the outcome, but here's why I'm fine with Sami Zayn holding on to it. It's something we talked about I think we both in agreement that I kind of felt like Gunther kind of he's bigger than the IC belt. And I kind of feel like if to me, there was only maybe maybe three people that could have taken off the belt of Gunther, and I'd have been like, you know what? I'm fine with it for two different reasons. Well, specifically two. One of them was Sami Zayn, and the other was Chad Gable. So I was fine with this. I was fine with first of all, the match was great. Seeing Gunther on the top rope, and then him just painting because Sammy's wife, his kid was in the crowd, and I'm like just staring at the wife. He just Sam. It played into what Sammy has always kind of been, the underdog. If we want to use that, use the term. But I was fine with this match because I think with Sammy, if you had to take the belt off a guy who's the longest reigning champion, arguably, I can argue one of the most dominant champions in the company. If you had to put it on somebody, you put it with somebody you trust. And I feel like Sami Zayn is a guy that you can trust. And sometimes people are like, oh, we want Chad. Chad's going to be champion. It may be this year. It may be so. But Chad, I kind of felt that the direction they were going, we have to put on somebody we trust. It's similar to how I felt. We'll talk about this one night too. It's the same feelings I feel with Seth Rollins when he became the inaugural champ. You put it on somebody you trust. We can slap it on somebody we could. Oh, great! Chad Gable wins the belt. What's next?
Well, Chad Gable was never going to win it off of Gunther. They made it clear, right?
Yeah,
so I always find it funny. There's a lot of, I don't know what it is about wrestling fans that like sometimes refuse to see the forest through the trees. But like they made it clear that Gable couldn't beat. He could take him to the limit. He could do everything he could.
Right.
That's why Sammy was his avatar. Sammy was the way he was going to get the title off of Gunther. That's why he invested in coaching Sammy up, because he can't do it, right? Like, he tried a couple times, it didn't work. So to me, whether you wanted Gable or not, it wasn't going to happen. And also, you have to remember that when you take a title off of somebody who has a historic title reign, the person who takes the title off of them is also going down in the history books. That's a big deal. That's a big part of this. And so, like, not only is it about trust, but it's about who actually deserves to be the person who's going to take a title off of a contender and a title holder like Gunther, right? Because Gunther, like you said, is going to now go on to be a major title contender. He's going to go after one of the big belts. That's going to be a big part of his story going forward. And who's the kind of person who can hold this down and then bring up and put over other wrestlers? Who's Chad Gable going to put over? He doesn't have the cachet. He doesn't have the incredibly talented, so amazing, like one of the best mid-carders they have in the WWE. But like, we can't pretend everybody is a regular main event guy. Like, Sami Zayn was part of one of the biggest storylines in the history of this company, and he was the most important part of it for a 6-month span. Mm-hmm. He can carry any storyline, and for what it's worth, he's one of the best in-ring performers. The man's like a beast. He can put on bangers, right? Mm-hmm. So like, this is a guy who now, when he has title matches with the title, gives it that worth. He brings not only the heart and his ability to cut promos and everything else to it, but he also he can always threaten to go heel because he's got that ability. So he can go heel or face at any moment because he's Sami Zayn. He's capable of that. He can put people over. He can feud with people. He's in with Jay. He's in with Cody Rhodes. He's in with Kevin Owens. Like, he's got all of these allies that people who can or may or may not turn on him, who he may or may not feud with, and he can put dudes over. There's nobody better. And he put on a match that genuinely was worthy of winning a title. And I don't know what more fans want. Gunther had beaten everybody there was to beat. There was no one left to beat that wasn't, like the top tier dudes who are in different title contentions. Otherwise, this was it. And as soon as they saw KO standing there, they should have known. Everybody should have known. When KO was standing around the corner before he came out, I'm telling you, I've never seen my husband get this excited. He acted like, when he saw KO, he acted like he had just seen Jesus resurrected. Like, he was so excited because he knew that, because he's a huge Sammy fan. He knew as soon as KO was there, like, that it was happening, and so he was pumped. And you've got to be a real hater to not feel connected to KO and Sammy's friendship and their story together. Like, what more do you want? You need it. Come on. He's so face right now. He's so lovable. We're never going to get a better, more likable version of Sami Zayn than we have right now. It was perfect. I loved it. And I think that it was the most worthy person Gunther could have lost that title to at this point. Just no one deserved it more. And Gunther deserved it to be somebody who will not just carry the legacy. It's not someone he's just like has to put over. He didn't have to put Sammy over. This was a battle of equals, someone who was worthy of taking it off him, not somebody who he had to like sacrifice his belt for to try to give them their big legacy moment, which is what it would have been with Gable. He didn't have to do that. He lost to an equal.
Yeah. But first of all, before we transition out, shout out to your husband, because listen, we have to shout him out. We talk about it.
Yeah.
Listen. Yeah, listen, that man, I'm gonna make some calls, get a Nobel Prize or something. We'll figure out the category later. I'll talk to him and say, listen, we'll figure out the category. It's not literature, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's got a lot of medals he should win, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'll talk listen, I got you. Don't worry about it. If you see something in an envelope and it just says "GOAT," that's you. Don't question it. Don't.
Just accept it. Just accept it.
Just accept it as someone who knows the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this for transitioning. to your point, I'm glad that it wasn't Gable. I felt like they could have went two different ways with Gable or Zayn, and I'm glad they took the Zayn route because I felt like I said it goes back to what I said. You put it on somebody, A, who's over, and B, somebody who's sick, who can kind of help and kind of create something forward. As far as for Gunther, I think you put him in the title picture. That's we had one of the questions came in. It's going to likely be the answer to one of the questions we talk about that I feel about someone named Cody Rhodes, who was in the main event here on night one, along with Seth freaking Rollins, teaming with Dwayne Johnson and Roman Reigns. Let me say this, and I think you may have talked about it, but I feel it needs to be said again. We got to appreciate seeing The Rock in the ring. We've been growing up, we've seen The Rock in the ring. It felt every Raw, SmackDown, but to come back to this moment at a WrestleMania to main event another WrestleMania. He's the only guy to do it. Only him, and I believe was it Hogan or I forgot who the other person was, to main event WrestleMania in 4 different decades.
Probably the Undertaker.
Undertaker, yeah. Michael Cole said it, and in the recess of my mind, it'll come out if it. But for him to main event a WrestleMania 2024 and to be only one of 2 superstars to do it in 4 different decades, it's a testament to The Rock. It's a testament to his character. And I think when we talk about influential superstars in company history, The Rock has to be on the Mount Rushmore. To me, it feels like there's no debate about it, because if you look at how his impact, how we look at superstars, I look at The Rock. He was just as good on the mic as he was in the ring. And then this match to me was everything that I envisioned and more. To me, the highlight moment was that I said, he's going to use his power as being on the board of TK. He's going to use it, but I want to see how it's done. And sure enough, he points to the ref and basically threatens the ref. And listen, and the way it was done was so good.
Oh, and by the way, shout out to Cole and Corey, like on, just like calling it like it's already bloodline rules and blah, 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 and like playing into the whole absurdity of it. Like it really is a part of selling the story to have them like acknowledging what's happening and kind of weighing in on it. And I thought they did such a good job. I mean, obviously I love, they're just nothing bad to say about Michael Cole, Corey, like they just did great work all weekend, but I just loved that there was a lot of like that leaning into The Rock abusing his power and might as well already be bloodline rules and blah blah blah. I guess we're getting a preview. That was really cool. And the match itself was just, it's you knew how it was going to go. I think that you knew how it was going to go. There's no reason to have it if you're not going to make it bloodline rules. That's kind of like the whole thing, right? But The Rock, the journey that it took to get to WrestleMania with The Rock, and the way that I sort of experienced this because of when I started becoming a regular viewing fan, whereas I'd only ever been like sort of a casual observer of the WWE. And when I started to become a real hardcore fan, this was the first time I ever got to see The Rock like really do his thing. He has not been around doing in-ring work for a very long time. So I was so grateful that he was just even back, let alone I just never expected him to go to this level. Nobody did. If you say you were, you're lying. I spent years listening to people tell me The Rock will never come back. Not only that, they were saying that not only will The Rock never come back and do this, he'll never like do a 3 or 4 month storyline. We'll never get anything like that. Over and over and over again, people told me that. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe he'll come back someday and like, he'll go to WrestleMania, but it won't even matter because like, what is he going to take a title off of Roman? That's not going to happen. Blah, blah, blah. He'll never, like, he's too big for this now. Like he'll never clear his schedule to do it. And like, not only was he clearing his schedule to do it, it was the most important thing he's done for the last 6 months, and he was preparing for it before that. He was showing up on Raw, showing up on SmackDown, cutting the promos, investing in the storyline, investing in like riding out being a heel, being The Rock, getting booed and cheered at the same time, like leaning into being full like OG heel Rock. The Mama Rhodes beat down in the parking lot is one of the best things we've gotten in years. Like incredible. I felt like sometimes I was being gaslit by people being almost kind of weird and resentful of The Rock being there, as if he didn't like. It's like there was a lot of stuff early on in it where it was like, what does he think he has to come in and take care of this? Like, we've got so much talent in the company already. And like, I don't understand that. Not because I haven't been a wrestling fan long enough, because I have. And not because I don't understand what's going on, like, and what, why it matters to bring up young talent, because I do. And I'm very invested in all of them. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. When you get a chance to watch someone do the thing at the level that The Rock can do it at, you don't ever take that for granted. There is nobody, and that includes my beloved Seth Rollins, who can cook on the mic like that man. It is a natural charisma. It is a natural talent. That is the reason he has been making billion-dollar movies for 2 decades. Like, that's not an accident. People don't just become that person. And so, like, when we got to see him do this and go full into that role and stop being the good guy Rock on the movie tour, promoting some Disney film he's in, when we finally got to see The Rock cook at the highest level, that to me is one of the great joys of being a wrestling fan, is that you get to see somebody come back and do something that like is genuinely the top of their game. What do we got? I think the movie problems he has had of late signaled a change for him. He seems to really enjoy this involvement again. Yeah. I mean, whatever the reason is that we got him back, we did, right? So like the idea that he, is back because his career isn't going whatever. I don't tend to agree with that. Like, The Rock's going to be making $10-20 million a movie for as long as he wants. Like, I think people take box office like bombs a little bit hard. I think maybe the Black Adam thing bummed him out on a personal level. But I mean, let's be honest, Vince McMahon leaving, him becoming part owner in TKO and all that stuff that's on the board, that's like a big part of it. It doesn't matter. All I know is that everybody who wanted to like whine and complain about The Rock stepping in was really like, it was interesting to me when every single show he was on, he was the absolute pinnacle of performance on that show. I've just never seen anything like it. And I'm sorry, I've seen Cena come back. I've seen Stone Cold come back. Other GOATs, also Mount Rushmore dudes. No, like Undertaker, all these dudes, I've seen them all make different returns in different ways. Nobody does what The Rock does, which is why he's The Rock. And that is no disrespect to any of those other people, because they all do what they do. But like, that to me was so sick. And even in his final promo, before he goes away for a while, I'm going away for a while, and does his like big goodbye and does that weird promo with Cody with the handing him over, whatever it was, don't break my heart. This is awkward chants even were like so funny. He was like he was making it awkward, and it was amazing. Like, he can do whatever he wants. He's like a wizard. He's like a wizard in manipulating the emotions of the people around him and in the like arena. And I know people want to talk about the match. Like, that match didn't matter. So like, I don't know how much we really need to get into the actual match. The real thing that mattered was that The Rock wrestled. He took real bumps. It was awesome. And he was awesome the entire time he was there.
Yeah. I think that's the takeaway. Like I said, there'll be points where, hey, she takes the show, she gets the ball, and you're right. I mean, the match itself served the purpose. But like, it can't be overstated enough before we transition to night 2. Seeing The Rock in the ring, and it's cool. And for those who didn't want to see The Rock, I always say this. You understand you're watching greatness because you may not see it again for a while.
Also, what can you explain to me? Maybe because you've been a fan longer, you can explain this to me.
Sure.
Because no one's been able to do it. What about The Rock? Like, what is it that would annoy somebody about The Rock coming back and putting in that amount of work? Were people annoyed and thought he was going to maybe be a hack at first and then like couldn't admit they were wrong when he started really committing? Is that what it was? Like they just like didn't think he was going to commit, and then when he did, I don't understand.
I think I'll say this. I think it's kind of a bit of both of what you talked about. I think there was maybe a contingency of fans who felt that maybe putting The Rock in was kind of, here we go again. We're bringing an outside guy to kind of put,
Outside.
You'll be surprised.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll be surprised. Yeah, I don't want. Well, outside we'll bring in someone, and then like The Rock, like, oh, why? But and then there's also, I think, which is the stronger side. I just simply feel that people thought that The Rock could not do what he's done. And my point is that when I saw The Rock come back, I said, and what gave it away to me, and it was so nuanced, and I knew what kind of rock, and I said, look at the way he was dressed. How I knew we were getting like a Hollywood Rock type of guy was his vest.
It was his vest. Good.
And I said, if you go back and watch when he was Hollywood Rock, when he was heel, he was wearing vests. That let me know, oh, we're getting that Rock. And I've always said this: The Rock is one of the best people on the microphone in the history of WWE, and it's not even close.
It's not even close. Like I don't. And, it's not close. I don't know how you can like not love that. Like if I were a wrestler right now, I'd be so mad that The Rock still cooks me on the mic. Like it's crazy. Like it's crazy how good he is.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And to me, those who kind of doubted it, and listen, everyone's warranted to have their perspectives. But also, this before we transition to night
I'm just trying to understand it more than anything. I don't want to be a hater. But
I think there were people. I think I lean more on the side just from the outside, on the inside / outside looking in. I think there was a handful of people saying, well, can The Rock do this? Like they doubted and I'm like, look, when you look at The Rock on the microphone, no one can really touch him.
That's not a talent you lose either.
Right.
Like, maybe the wrestling. I mean, listen, I understand people doubting the wrestling, but like,
I get
The
that.
Rock. Have you guys been watching him on press tours for the last 15 years? There's a reason that everybody from the age of 80 to 8 thinks The Rock should be president. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and then you look at, and then I also say, to me, look at the stuff he does with Kevin Hart. Like it's so hilarious to me. It's like, even though it was nothing, but it's like he can still do this, and it's like on the mic, like the ring stuff. When he showed the picture of him and he was like slapping his, I'm like, listen, I can only hope to look like that. Probably won't. I'd be okay with that. I'll probably have different glasses by then. But as far as this, he puts in the work. And people don't understand there's a level to this. There's a difference between, like, I kind of put it like this. The Rock is here, and in order to get here, you have to match the intensity. And a lot of people, The Rock put in the work to do it. He puts in the work into every single thing that he does.
Isn't that what Roman always says? There's levels to this.
Yeah, there is. To me, it's like cake. A good cake has levels. Like if you
layers, that's layers, Ladarius. You are on the
no
tears.
Listen, to me, when I look at cake, cake has levels. Hey, levels, layer. Listen,
cake levels, layers, whatever.
Listen, I'm not Merriam-Webster, but I'm pretty sure
I can tell. Yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah, I'm not Merriam-Webster here, but hey, I know words. I've said words.
I do words good. I do words good too.
Yeah, and that's my speech. Good night. No. We'll be right back, folks. Seth Meyers is next. Good night, dude. So now we transition to night 2, and I kind of want to start night 2 with what kicked off night 2. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and let me tell folks this, because we had a Seth question with Big, but we'll get to that. But I will say this about Seth Rollins, and I put it on social media on my Twitter that you see right there, and I know you've talked about it. When we talk about Seth Rollins, we have to understand the work this man has put in for this company. We're talking. Think about this: when some guy named Cody Rhodes decided to come back at WrestleMania, who was the guy that was chosen to face Cody Rhodes? It was Seth Rollins. Once again, it goes back to the point about Sami Zayn. You go with people who you trust. They trusted Seth Rollins. People like, and I remember people were like, "Oh well, he lost 3 straight matches." Listen, Seth Rollins could eat 3 losses. Listen, it's like when people talk like the Bulls back in the '90s. They're not gonna care if you lost to the Cavaliers on a Thursday night. Nobody's gonna care
Also,
if you
the reason he lost those matches was to put Cody in the position to do this. If he can't
exactly.
beat
Yeah,
the level of Seth Rollins, then like we don't get Cody winning back to back,
right.
rumbles. And
He's yeah.
I mean, we
I
need
mean
to
because
believe Cody also was beating Brock Lesnar. Like Cody's had ridiculous, like across the board. Cody's been winning matches he had no business winning for a long time to set us up
yeah.
for this. Like that's kind of the point.
Yeah, but once again, some people, not those, but you kind of have to explain. I vaguely remember a post like, "Oh well, Seth is taking these losses to Cody. Is gonna." If there was anybody in the company who could take losses, it's Seth Rollins. He's going to be fine. They weren't just throwing. They could have put Kevin. They could have put anybody in that spot, but they knew that losing to Seth, beating Seth Rollins meant something. So it's amazing that people had to defend it like he could eat those losses. But anyway, moving forward. But going back to Seth Rollins and looking at this match, I just think Seth just proved what we both know and what other people know is that anytime he steps between those ropes, it's a show. He understands and he's put in the work. I'd argue for the last 2 years, probably even more. I'd argue maybe for the decade. And how his character work, his work in the ring, we've seen the growth. And that match, and people are like, "Oh well, he lost." Like he was going to lose to Drew. Like I saw it. Like it's the same thing with Becky Lynch. You just kind of felt it in the air, but you were going to kind of see how it was going to play out. To me,
The whole question was not, the idea was that he's going to lose because he's been pushing himself on burning the candle at both ends, not only to defend his own title and to prepare for this, but to help Cody beat Roman. So he'd been burning the candles at both ends. The question was always, what happens when he loses to Drew, which he's going to? What does he do from there? What does he decide to do with that loss? And this match was such a big part. The cool thing I liked about it was actually such a big part of the storytelling of the main event as well. It played such a big role in what happened later in the night. And that was really cool because, first of all, they put on a banger, as they always do. Drew McIntyre is an incredible wrestler. And one of those dudes who, like, again, like, was always so reliable that maybe we took him for granted for a little bit, but he's cooking right now. We love that for him. He deserves it. They put on an amazing match. Seth took a claymore to the eye socket, sacrificed his facial bone structure for the match. And they had this incredible moment, where he's outside the ring and they give each other props, the props that Drew gave him, and then Seth saying, you deserve this. That quick moment between them. We knew that that's how they felt about each other. There's been mutual respect. And they carried that through to the end of the match. It was 100% worth it. It was 100% worth it for that to be the way that Seth lost. Again, you always want someone that worthy of a title to lose it to someone who is their equal. And while Seth may not have an exact equal in the company, Drew is absolutely that, like, type of guy. And with with Punk standing there, knowing the history that he has with Drew, that they're sort of building, the history he's had with Seth in the past. It was kind of perfect. And we're going to get into it when we talk about the main event, but it was such a pivotal moment to see how Seth reacted to losing that title. And if I had been able to really internalize watching how he reacted in that moment, maybe I would have been able to see what happened later, like coming 100%. But I will say that his emotion, his actual genuine emotion, the real tears, not only from probably actual physical pain, but from like exhaustion and just like knowing that title run is over, was really meaningful. Obviously, I'm the biggest Seth fan in the world, so it meant a lot to see. But also seeing Drew get back to the mountaintop in front of a crowd of people, which he's talked about for a long time, after a very worthy match, a match that was better than the match he fought to win the first time, in my opinion, I think was like really cool, having his wife be there, knowing what he's struggled with personally over the last few years, since his like last title run. All of that stuff has been like, it was really gratifying to watch, and his wife and family like right there was really cool. And so it made it all the more heartbreaking when the thing happened that we knew was going to happen. And I just thought that it was funny. I had this, people were sort of like giving this like sense that maybe night 2 wasn't going to be as good as night 1. And there was like all this sort of talk about it. And I thought, like, this is how you guys are kicking the night off, we've got a long night ahead, because it was really good. I honestly could not have asked for more from that situation. I don't know, if you want to talk about Priest cashing in yet or not, but just the match itself to me was exactly what we would have wanted. I mean, I don't love that poor Seth got his like eye absolutely smashed, but like, that's what, if you're going to take 4 claymores in a match, one of them might do that, which is it's a trick. It's just the casualties that come with the, it's not Drew's fault, but I mean, that was a lot of claymores to keep taking.
Yeah, I guess occupational hazard, I guess. I don't know.
That's exactly right. Yeah, indeed. But I thought it was incredible. And there were 2 guys that were like, for me, at least personally, were super easy to root for. It's so weird to have your favorite wrestler in the world be there knowing he's going to lose a title and not be bummed about it. Like I wasn't bummed. I wasn't bummed with how it was going to go. I knew how it had to go. And that says a lot for their storytelling and for their execution, maybe more importantly, Drew and Seth's execution in the moment.
Yeah. And I'll say this, to delve any deeper, I think for Drew, first of all, Drew's, the promos, the mic work, I think we were blessed, in my opinion, just in many ways. And then kind of like after the match, and then to see him, I said something was going to happen, because I call him Cornelius, Cornelius Marvelous, whatever. I know his real name is Phil Brooks, but listen, Cornelius Maleficent Punk was there on the micro, doing commentary. And I said, Drew has been out, Drew didn't go in the back. He agreed, he saw his wife, like you mentioned, his wife was there, his was there. And then he turned his attention to Punk. And I said, is this going to happen the way that I think it's going to happen? Like, it's one of the things, like, I want to be wrong, but I said, something's going to happen. And so sure enough, fireworks, there's always been fireworks between him and Punk. So now, and I'm saying, I was just waiting for the music, like you should do for Cena, folks. Just wait for the music. And then sure enough, like sands in the hourglass, here comes Damian Priest, takes the briefcase. I want to delve, becomes the champion. What I will say is this about that. I understand why people may be upset about it, but to me, it builds to the storyline. To me, it's Damian Priest, whether we agree, whether you think that he should be champion or not, superfluous to me. What's important to me is that to understand that why it happened. Because if you think about Damian Priest, and we talked about it with the Judgment Day and the tag team, neither him or Finn Balor they were just 2 dudes on the same faction on the same team as the tag team. They didn't feel like a tag team. Yeah, they held the belts because they got to do something with them. So you put the belt on Priest. You kind of give Priest his moment because we got to understand what's around the corner pay-per-view wise. You got premium live event. Excuse me. I don't want to get
PLE, yeah.
PL. I don't want nobody coming after me for pay-per-view.
We no longer pay per view.
Yeah. Oh, she in the crowd. Yeah. It's fine. I know her. It's fine. It's fine. I told her she could yell. It's fine. The throwing, no. We're a tag team. We told her to save the energy. But we have a tag. We have to go across the pond and defend the belts. But the point, exactly. the thing is this. I think there's going to be more with Drew. I think we're going to get more Drew and Punk stuff down the road. Maybe this might be the summer of Drew. May be the summer of Drew. I think somewhere
it's definitely going to be the summer of Drew. I mean, that's the thing is like, listen, Priest. If you guys only want like real top tier dudes winning those titles, then Money in the Bank is never going to make sense. Then no one should ever be able to cash in the Money in the Bank because like Drew McIntyre is not winning Money in the Bank. So like if you're going to give them the title and you want it to be a real threat for them to be able to cash that thing in, then dudes like Priest are the ones who that's how they get the opportunity. That's the whole point of Money in the Bank. It's not to give like dudes who should 100% already have a title a chance. It's the dudes who might not be able to get there or get the opportunity for those matches unless they win Money in the Bank. Do you guys get this? Okay, great. Now that you understand that, let's go back to why Damian Priest won it. First of all, he waited 11 goddamn months to finally do it or whatever it's been. It's been like forever. But also like Damian Priest he's been putting in work in the Judgment Day. He's been killing it. He delivered one of the most insane finishing. I mean, truly, what is it? What is his finishing move that he does? Damian Priest?
South of Heaven or
South of Heaven. That South of Heaven was like from the depths of his soul. If you're gonna win a title on one move, just like coming in, whatever, it was the craziest one he's ever done. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. So props to him for that. He's worked really hard to get to this opportunity. He's not going to be a title holder for the next year, guys. Everybody take a chill pill. Not only is Drew set up to have whatever happens with Punk, going forward, but now he's got beef with Priest. He can basically beef with anybody because he's in a beefing mood. He's like starting crap all over the place. Like Drew has now won a couple of titles. He is a 6'5", 270-pound, whatever he is, like behemoth, who's incredible in the ring. Like he's gonna be fine. He's gonna get his title chances. You guys have to remember also, there's another title that changed hands that hasn't changed hands in 4-something years. Okay, the title chances are coming for everybody. Just take a goddamn chill pill and allow for this dude who's been putting in work on this faction for years now, since Edge started it, and give him his like time. These are heels for a reason. Sometimes people you don't like are going to win a title, and that's how you get invested, right? So that's where we're at. I don't think it was lazy storytelling. I think it was the exact opposite. I think it's exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give. Do you want Money in the Bank to matter? Do you want that to just be a joke, like it was with Theory? Because that sucked. We didn't like that either.
So, what I will say is this, and before we transition, is that to your point, another match we're going to talk about involved someone who won the belt by winning Money in the Bank. So to your point, it made Money in the Bank matter. It gave a guy like Damian Priest who maybe doesn't get enough credit for putting on an absolute banger against Bad Bunny over in Puerto Rico. He's put in the work with Judgment Day. He's put in the work pretty much since being in the group. And somebody asked a question about, well, what happens with Judgment Day now? And to me, I say this, and I'll get your thoughts. When you look at the group now, people like losing those tag team belts was gonna happen. Like I don't want to be the guy to tell you that they weren't going to retain those belts were They were never coming back to the Judgment Day. Like,
Yeah.
so
I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone thought they were. Quite
yeah.
honestly,
So
there's
yeah.
a
So
reason they put like 7 different tag teams in the thing. I mean, they knew.
yeah. So yeah. So like, so I, for those selected few who thought it was going to happen, sorry about it. But to me, when you look at Rhea Ripley, and then now you add Damian Priest. To me, it's going to be interesting moving forward, because in the back of my mind, and like I said, maybe I was up too late, maybe it was something I had Taco Bell, whatever. I had a moment in my mind in saying, what would happen with, like, there are already weak links in the Judgment Day. That to me was the question. Like, and if so, do you get rid of somebody out of Judgment Day? But if you ask me, I don't think they'll do it in the immediate. But
I'll tell you what I'm gonna tell you, because you don't have an actual theory, but I do. I have an actual theory.
Wait. How dare you? I have a theory.
I can tell you don't, because you haven't
I do
said
have
anything.
a theory.
Okay, so what's your actual theory then, Ladarius?
No, Tanya, you take over. Take over. I'll sit my drink.
You're like, you were like, I don't know what's gonna happen. So I'm like waiting to hear your theory.
Is that how I sound? Is that how I sound on the end? My God.
Well, you just did just now.
I'll say this.
Not all. You were parsing, so I'm like, do you have a theory or not?
Yes, I do. What, it feels like Congress and Meet the President. That's why I'm never running for president.
I'm ADHD, so I'm like, if we're not going to get the theory, I have one. So.
Part of me feels that they're going to kick out Dominic Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I felt that if you kind of look at how they've kind of managed, it feels like the whole Dominic Mysterio kind of, I want to say, somewhat branching out on his own a little bit, and teaming with Santos Escobar. I'm not saying that Dominic joins Legado Fed, I'm not saying that, but I feel like the Judgment Day as is, something is off.
Yeah.
And to me, I look for like I said, the weak link. We all thought, it's going to be JD McDonough, but I also think, and to me, and I've stuck to the theory, I think it's Dominic Mysterio, because I'm looking at his actions. I'm not saying, is it going to happen immediately? Maybe not, but I think seeds have been planted. It's kind of like similar with Damage Control, where the seeds are planted. It's just a matter of when it's going to grow and when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's
which is like, I guess the most likely thing is like, do you make it till SummerSlam and then have like whatever they're building to maybe a potential issue happen then? Because you want it to happen at a pretty big PLA, just because like they have built Judgment Day into a like multiple show sort of behemoth like faction. They are a big deal, and it has been really good. They're still like incorporating truth. Like, you don't want to like end it too soon. Yeah. But yeah, they're building. I mean, I completely agree. And I think that when things go south with Dominic, they have a really good opportunity for that to cause the rift between Rhea and Priest. And I think maybe that's where they like start to have their like real friction, because if they want to kick out Dom, how is Rhea going to feel about that? And now they're the two like figureheads of it. They've both got titles. And JD and Finn are already their own like little thing, right? Like that's there's the factions within the factions. It's Rhea and Dom, it's Rhea and Priest, it's Finn and JD. And I feel like there might be like, that's where like everything comes to a head. And I don't know if they end up doing like, bringing in somebody like Liv Morgan and then ousting Rhea. Like, are we going to keep this thing going? That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. But I think the real rift happens when they get fed up with Dom, and then Rhea and Priest go head to head. And that, to me, I don't know if it's going to end the Judgment Day, but it might break it off into two different factions.
Yeah, I think it's similar to kind of what Damage Control, which we'll talk about their match. I think just because what happened with Bayley doesn't destroy the essence of Damage Control. I just think it's just a shifting in a new It's just shifting, and I kind of feel that way with the Judgment Day. So So see, I know it took a while to get to the theory, folks. Listen, it's Murder She Wrote. I should have took the Columbo route and got to the point. I took the
No,
Murder
I
She.
that was just my ADHD being
Oh
like,
no,
are
I
we
know.
getting a theory? I was just like, that was
I
just my
know.
brain taking over.
I,
That was
I was
lizard brain.
I was looking at you and like I need to get to the point because I feel like if something's gonna get thrown at me from all the way halfway across, I'm not gonna
Yeah, you
open
just
my
think
door.
that like a banana
Yeah,
peel just hit you in the face.
yeah. You have a package for you. I'm not taking it. Keep it. I thought you got that
Sorry
delivered at eight
about
o'clock.
that.
You're good. See, that's why we're a team.
No, I
That's
know.
why we're a team. If we this is the first. I think. Listen, every team has this moment. We get the moment, and we're gonna root. Run the
Oh,
division
I
for the
have
next.
one of those moments every day. So this is just an everyday style of communication for me. So
Oh, oh, come on, Craig.
Ladarius, see, that's what I'm saying. No, it was good. You're good. We overlapped. We had a Venn diagram of theory. We were
Yeah,
both focusing on
yeah.
Dom. So that's good.
On a very special. Yeah, listen, we'll get a guest star in there. We'll get. I don't know who needs. Yeah, we'll get somebody.
We're
But
gonna start putting a time. I'm gonna start putting up a timer that says get to your point in 15 seconds or less.
yeah, yeah. If she was running the Oscars, I'm like, we just got here. We've been here for like
Hour
2
and a
hours. Yeah,
half, in and out.
I want to thank. Sorry, gotta go. Gotta go.
Nope.
Gotta get this place cleaned out of here about 30 minutes. So we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of damage control, I do want to talk about Io versus Bailey. And you talked about the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that's how Io cashed in hers on Bianca Belair to become champion. So this match to me, and I think we talked about this. One of the last time on here, and about how the storyline was. And this goes back to Bailey winning at the Royal Rumble, where to me it was a no-brainer that Bailey was going to win because I saw the seeds planted because it just kind of felt when Kairi Sane joined the group, something felt different. And it kind of felt like Bailey was there. Bailey was still trying to, help and try to pump up the team and everything, damage control, but it just felt that they were going out there and doing just fine without Bailey. So the question to me was, when are they going to do it? Like, because I knew it was going to be the betrayal. And the way they timed the betrayal was where she was hiding in the locker room and they were, thinking they're speaking their language and thinking that Bailey didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just being very, thinking they were being covert about it. Covertly overt. Yeah, it's a phrase. We'll figure it out later. Once again, not a dictionary. But the thing is, so we fast forward when they go to the ring, and I said, this is going to happen tonight. Because at that point, Bailey was going to announce who she was going to face at WrestleMania. So, and I had locked in, Io Sky, but how do we get there? So, long story short, the betrayal happens. We get Bailey versus Io, and we get the storyline. And for Bailey to add to her Hall of Fame resume, she won the Women's Royal Rumble. She's accomplished everything that the company gave her that she's done. And for this match, you felt the story being told. You felt the aggression. They both know each other. So it was going to be, like I said earlier, like a tete-a-tete sort of thing. That's what makes the storylines great, is that when we get a deep storyline, we get great matches. You can have a match with a not great storyline. You can. There's like certain exceptions to that. But with this particular match, we got the storyline. It felt personal from Bailey, and Io felt it, and then vice versa. Because like the way they set up, like if you saw some of the packages where they're telling the story of how Bailey brought back Io and Dakota Kai back in 2022 at SummerSlam. So Bailey brought back Io Sky and Dakota Kai. So this was all personal, which made it great. And Bailey getting her moment was absolutely everything.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Bailey's win was the crowd. She got the crowd she deserved. She got the respect that she deserved in that moment. She's so worthy of winning a title at WrestleMania. And she's like another one of those people, like if you want to love Cody Rhodes for being a person who like in the press conferences and is like the good guy ambassador for the WWE. Like that's to me is also what Bayley is. And on top of that, she's an incredible wrestler and performer. She created this really, I mean, it's very hard to have a relationship that all of the fans are invested in where one person doesn't speak English and the other person does not speak Japanese. You know what I mean? Like these are hard relationships to sometimes sell, and Io is not the performer that Asuka is. She's a wrestler through and through. Io is unbelievable, but she doesn't have the charisma and the performance level of Asuka quite yet. And I'm not saying that she, to me, it's very much like what she does, she's incredible at, but I just think that she doesn't, it's something that lots of people either have or they don't. And when you don't speak English and you have to tell stories through, subtitles a lot of times, and then also just with your persona, the persona matters so much in America. That's just how it is, which is why people like Shinsuke and Asuka are Hall of Fame talents. We don't ever need to hear them speak a word of English to connect to them with they do obviously, and they can, but they also they're just exceptional actors. And that's a big part of being a great storyteller at WWE. I don't think Io is as adept at it, at that part of it. And yet she still was able to sell this really incredible relationship with Bayley, because I think it's real, because I think it was really an important thing for Bayley to bring Io and Dakota along into, and I think that they genuinely did have an affection for her. So that chemistry was real and it was there. I think it's a lot of credit to Bayley too. And of all of the 4 horsewomen since I've been watching, Bayley's had the slowest trajectory back to the top because she was injured. And, Charlotte's always right there in belt contention, and Becky's always right there in belt contention. But Bayley was there building up Io and Dakota. She created two of the beloved NXT stars that everybody wanted to see come up and whatever, and Bayley spent 2 years of her life dedicated to making sure that that was a storyline that she saw through, and sort of foregoing any singles opportunities for herself, which is why I think she got the response that she did at WrestleMania, which she completely deserves. I think she's one of the most likable people in the industry. I think that the amount of relationships that she has with the wrestlers speaks for itself, and how much people love her. And to me, that's one of the feel good moments of WrestleMania. All of the love that Cody got for his win, to me, is the kind of love that Bayley also deserves, because she's put in so much time and work into a division that wouldn't be where it is without her.
Yeah. And what I will say is this, before we move on, I wrote a recap piece about the women's matches at WrestleMania. And one of the things that I think it's important to highlight is that the work of Bayley, Becky Lynch, what they've done inside the ring pales in comparison to what they've done outside the ring. Now, both of them have done great in the ring, but it's their work outside the ring, willing to take that step back and to propel the future of this women's division. And once again, it's about, we should appreciate it while we can see it, because, like I say, I love Bayley. I love the 4 horsewomen. I really do, because of their impact on that women's division, and how you can literally tie pretty much anything connected to that division to them. It's like
one of the 4 of them have had their fingers in basically all of it, which is what you can say about the men's division too. It's just that we didn't used to have women that were there to do that for other women, and now we do. You know, just kind of what we talked about with Bianca being able to be this receptor for bringing in Jade and bringing back Naomi. Naomi stands on her own 2 feet, of course, but just like having that space to bring her back in after the way she left, it's like what a wonderful thing to see. And that's a really good point. Yeah, it's a really good point that they have such a. It's like the remember when they debuted the Bloodline family tree?
Yeah.
The thing was sick, by the way. Sick. I want one like for my house. Like, don't you want like I want one on like the biggest wall of my house. I'm gonna put it over that window. No, I'm just kidding. But that's kind of like with the 4, like you could do the 4 horsewomen, and then like every title that's come down since then is sort of like through that tree. So it's really cool.
I kind of want the same thing. I want that picture. It's like the pictures of Bianca, Jade, and Naomi. I want that picture and then that Bloodline thing as well. Where we're going to put it at, we'll figure it out later. So it'll all be figured out later, I think. So kind of, I don't know if we want to talk about these other 2 matches or not, but we'll do it. LA Knight and AJ Styles. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, wait. So, I think, we don't have to like go deep into these because obviously they were just ways to see great wrestlers.
I'm doing it for
AJ,
legal reasons.
No, but I mean, AJ, every match we get to watch AJ Styles perform is a pleasure. And like, he's recently said that his body's not lasting much longer. Which is understandable, what he's been doing with his body for the last 20 plus years of his life. Like, this is a guy who really grinded it out before he ever even made it to the WWE. And he's done some things. He could do moves that like human beings shouldn't be able to do, especially when he was younger. So like, I understand. But I think that we should really appreciate the fact that we got to see him in this match, and that he was willing to put somebody like LA Knight, over yet again, just to like give him that moment at WrestleMania and give him that match, because while I know that match was supposed to be about LA Knight, like for me, I think it was actually more about getting to see AJ Styles in a WrestleMania, maybe, a singles match one more time.
Yeah, Craig, you're right. We do got to talk about the megastar again. The one, if you can't see me, folks, I'm here if you hear my voice. I'm here. I'm like the Undertaker. I'm here. You just hear my voice, and we'll.
The Undertaker is the opposite. You never hear his voice. You just see him.
I guess we'll do opposite Undertaker.
Yeah.
Listen,
inverted Undertaker.
Yeah,
your Undertaker's Wario.
It's a bisexual Undertaker can trend. I think reverse Undertaker. It may not be the sexiest thing to trend, but it's a trend nonetheless.
Fair enough.
So, and to me, I mean, look, we talk about I guess it's the Pride versus the Judgment. I didn't know the team names before, with Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits versus Karrion Kross and AOP. Look,
I don't know what that was. I'm not gonna lie. That was another one I forgot happened.
I'm just gonna say this before we get to the essence, to the core of it.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I love Snoop Dogg. Let's be super clear. I like Bubba Ray Dudley. But if when you turn on the subtitles to when Snoop Dogg is talking, and they can't quite catch up, it's like Snoop Dogg was there to be there. He has the gold belt. The match was sponsored by Gin and Juice. Like, so I'm not saying he had some gin and juice before the match. I'm not gonna sit there and speculate because legal reasons. So it's a match. It happened. And it existed in the annals of history. No,
I love Bobby Lashley, so love to get to see Bobby Lashley's entrance. Love to see him in ring. Never stop giving me Bobby Lashley. I just don't need to act like the match mattered, because it didn't. So like, Bobby forever, Street Profits forever. Sure. That's really all that matters, is that we got to see Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, and we love him. Long live Bobby. That's all I have to say.
Is that a t-shirt? Because I'd buy that.
Long live Bobby, like 100%, with the like him in the back, doing.
Oh yeah, just arms folded.
Yeah, that's my dude.
Where'd you get that shirt from? WWEshop.com. Or
I'm gonna make
Fanatics.
it.
Yeah. How long you guys working on it? Well, we've been talking about it and we got it done.
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
Bobby know about it? Yeah, we just told Bobby, hey, just pose, and then that's all we needed. We got it. Great.
Yeah.
Now, folks, if you're watching live, you may see that your screen is black. Now, I'm not saying that. I think this is kind of perfect that this happened because here's why. Because the only match left to really talk about is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Bloodline rules for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Now, I gave the warning promoting the episode that my co-host here, my buddy, tag team partner, we're defending the belt soon. We're not going to tell you when because we don't know yet. But she has things to say, and I will hand over the microphone, or I don't know what I hand over. I don't know what I hand over. It wasn't in the handbook. This was not in the meeting. But hand the reins over to Tanya Ray Fox, and you're in control.
All right. So I've already been a buzzkill a little bit on Twitter and Instagram. So I'm gonna reel it back a little bit on the buzzkill vibes. But the thing that I need people to understand is that I am not anti Cody Rhodes as a person. If you want to love him, if you want to root for him, if you want to raise him up on your shoulders and act like he just saved us from an alien invasion, I am not going to stop you. My problem has always been that he did not drive his own title storyline. He didn't. This story was told by Roman, The Rock, and Seth while he went along for the ride with his little America's boy, like everybody loves me, like, persona, right? At no point in this story did I ever feel like Cody was in charge, that he had the reins, that he was driving it. They literally had to bring Seth Rollins in to be the entire reason this man could win the title. I don't hate that. It's not Cody's fault per se that they had to shoehorn it that way. They didn't tell the story that made me believe Cody could beat Roman, that made me care whether he did. The finish the story stuff to me was always very undone, unfinished, because I don't know what that means. You did not ever cut a promo that explained to me what the story was. You kept saying that your dad didn't win the title, you want to win the title. What else is it? They never really addressed him leaving and what happened. They didn't do, like, even CM Punk's existence in the stratosphere has been addressed. Like, he's cut a promo where he like talks about storming out of this company and then whatever. Like, Cody's was so glossed over because he had to be this baby face. And so by the time we've gotten to this point, everybody, wants to compare this to like the Bret Hart winning in like WrestleMania 11 or whatever it was. Everybody on the shoulders, the whole deal. And like, to me, that's such an unfair telling of what happened. First of all, Bret Hart didn't upset the greatest champion we've had in 35 years, right? The longest reigning champion that we'll ever watch. He also didn't need another fellow superstar with a title reign at the same time to do the work. The story we watched on Sunday was Seth and Roman and The Rock. Like, and Cody was just there to grab the belt. Like, at no point did Cody cut a promo that wasn't carried by somebody else. He never cut a promo that wasn't carried by The Rock or Seth at any point during the last 6 months. I don't understand the idea that like this is the guy that has to be the guy for us going forward, except for the fact that I know he is beloved as a coworker and as a face of the company because he's whatever. It leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth that people are saying like he's the face of the company, this is whatever. Well, you've got like a Samoan family dynasty that's been carrying this company for 4 years and you never talked about him like this because they were heels. Okay. It leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth that you've got Bianca Belair, who's been doing stuff like this for years. And suddenly we need Cody Rhodes, who is not the best on the mic, not the best in the ring, not the best at anything that you do on camera. He's the best at being the guy everybody likes behind the scenes and being the smiley fake crier at press conferences. I said this to somebody and I don't know who it was. If you watch Cody, a lot of the times his way of displaying emotion is fake crying. No tears come out. He does this and no tears come out. While people are talking about his father, while people are talking about his legacy, I don't like fake tears. If you can't evoke emotion other ways, I find that lazy. So I need people to understand that it's not that I don't like Cody. It's that I don't like the way you've made me have to, like, you're telling me I have to like him. Like, I don't understand how you can watch people treat Cody the way that they did after WrestleMania with the crying. Michael Cole's crying, Samantha's crying, everybody's crying. That's great. While the person who won the match, who put his body on the line the entire time this was happening, is standing there with a black eye, with his body broken, shaking the man's hand. Like, that is the man. I don't know what to tell you. That is the person who told every bit of the story that needed to be told, that Cody wasn't talented enough to tell. He wasn't. He never once ever made me understand why it was important to him to beat Roman specifically, other than so he could win a title belt that his father never won. You never told me why he got to be the guy that beat Roman Reigns. This was Roman's story too, and they took it completely away from Roman, and they took it completely away from Seth to make it about Cody. And it was their fault that they didn't make me want that. Everybody else did, and that's fine. And I'm happy that everybody else felt vindicated. But for me, there was so much entitlement that ignored how important it was that this man was taking the title off of the longest title reign we have ever seen, of a guy that sacrificed himself just as much as anybody else, and off of a storyline that's started 10 years ago when Seth and Roman were on the Shield. Like, that's the moment that mattered, was him turning and hitting Seth in the back, right? And again, so that can result in Cody's title win, but acting like he had done something heroic and the over the top response to that, while the people who actually told the story walked away, left me feeling so weird, because I felt like I was mourning the loss of the acknowledgement of what had actually just occurred, like who had actually spent years of their life telling this story while Cody was telling everybody that he deserved this. And that's it. That's just how I feel. In the aftermath, I do think Seth has gotten a lot more credit than I thought. I think people have started to figure that out. And people, now that Roman has the title off of him, are starting to feel a little bit more open to giving him, the credit that he deserves. But I think we're about to find out pretty quickly that Cody Rhodes is not the personality or the performer that is going to carry a title the way that either of those other two men in the ring with him that actually told the story could.
Are you good? Or are we good? We good? Great.
That's all.
That is all. See, folks, listen, if you're asking what I was doing the whole time, I was listening, nodding, and going, you know what? This is all right. It's all right. So there are two questions that I do want to ask that were asked by those who were asked to send in questions. And I'll just direct them to you, and then I'll answer on the back end. And one of them was, who does Cody Rhodes face next, and what's next for Roman?
So, I mean, they've said that Roman's coming back for the SmackDown before SummerSlam, so I guess he's taking a little bit of a break, whatever. I know that, Triple H has said point blank that they have, a storyline that in place for Roman, which I thought he was going to take, a longer break, but I think that they have, I guess, you have a lot of bloodline stuff to still wrap up. Roman, at this point, we know Roman can go face, we obviously know that, and we also know that, him coming back with this much on the line in terms of just his like so much of what just happened and that changed his legacy and everything else, and the goodwill that we have toward Paul Heyman and all that stuff. Like, I think turning him face is going to actually be pretty easy. I personally really don't, I don't know how you separate like what Roman did with, you know, Jay and Jimmy and Solo and the like over the top stuff from his resentment for what happened to him years and years ago with Seth. So I think the reckoning has to come first. The reckoning of the spiral that he went down when he was betrayed by his chosen family, why he turned to his actual family in that moment. I think that's going to be the story that they tell going forward, is like sort of the aftermath of what happens when the dynasty that you built out of, you know, rage and betrayal finally crumbles and leaves you with like the person that you are at your core. And I think that's what we need to hear and see from Roman. And I think he's really, I am positive he's capable of doing that. And as far as like, who does Cody take on next? It depends on whether or not they want him to like carry the title for a really long time. Like, does he, you know, like I want Gunther to be in these title contention spots. They've sort of set up a situation where we waited for, you know, people were waiting so long for Cody to hold the title that now that he has it, you're like, okay, well, okay, now where do we go? Is he going to have to feud with somebody he's recently been, you know, is it going to be one of Cody's boys? You know, I call them Cody's boys, the like Sammy J. You know, we know Seth's out for a little bit. I imagine that they're going to want Cody to stay champion for a while, number one, because he's the face of the company, but number two, because they're going to want to build people up, give them title opportunities across this span. And then when Roman and or Seth come back, there's like some of that hanging over it still, and he still has the title, because otherwise, I don't know that their returns would be as potent. So that's my idea, is that it's just going to be title runs against these like contenders that have been waiting a long time to get it. So guys like Gunther, you know, I think that this would be a good opportunity to maybe have Kevin Owens back in these types of matches. And then, I mean, you know, it seems like I like there's a lot going on there with like Drew and Punk that like might end up going over to Cody, but I don't know, because again, like they just haven't done a lot of really good storytelling with Cody that didn't have something to do with Roman and Seth for a really long time. So I'm about as interested as everybody else to see what they do with him. And I hope I'm proven wrong. You know, all the Cody fanboys are like, well, you're going to be so happy when he turns heel because then everyone's going to hate him just like you. And it's like, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, it's not like I'm waiting for everyone to hate him so I can feel vindicated. It's like, it's a little late for that. Like, I want to be on board with everybody. I don't want to be the person who doesn't get the storyline or who doesn't feel connected to it. If he's a great heel and I like him as a heel, it will be because he's doing good work as a heel, and not because like other people also hate him now. That's just not how I watch wrestling. But I'm rooting for him to like prove me wrong moving forward, because he's been a big part of storytelling for the last couple of years, and I want it to pay off as a viewer. That's what I want. So we'll see. But like, you know, I don't know if you have any insight on what they're going to do with Becky and Seth, but I know one of the questions was about whether or not they would go to AEW, which obviously isn't happening. But also, like, I don't understand why anybody would worry that they're not coming back. I just think they need a long break and they need to renegotiate contracts, and I think that's absolutely going to happen. I mean, do you guys really think like Triple H is going to let Seth and Becky go? It's just not happening. We're just going to have to take a break, give them time, let them renegotiate new deals, and we'll see them when they're ready and healthy to come back.
Yeah. You know, I hate to get involved. I hate to interrupt the chef, you know, because you've been cooking, so I hate to interrupt the chef.
You're not. No, you're not. I'm good. I said what I need to say.
Yeah, you were cooking, and listen, if you ask my mom, you ask anybody, I like to eat, so I like to interrupt the cook. So okay. I'm gonna interrupt the cook. Like, you were cooking, and I was snacking on some, you know, some salt and vinegar chips. So, you know, I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah. So, but I'll say this before we put a button on this: is that I think I'm going to be interested to see what happens with Roman, because to your point, I kind of figured they would kind of let it breathe a little. Especially if Triple H saying there's something else in the work storyline wise, you know, I don't know how long Roman's going to be. I think it's going to be for a nice period of time, given his reign and given all that he had to go through while holding the belt. And as for who Cody faces, I think I talked about this. I think we kind of talked about it. I think whether through text or on social media, and I kind of said that Gunther's the guy.
Yeah.
If they do give him a first opponent, and curious to see how that goes. But I think overall that match, like however people may feel about Cody, because it feels like it feels like the speech to give after an election, where half the country's going to be really happy, and the other half is going to be really upset. But not that divisive. We're not going to go that far. That's a whole different show.
No, I know what you
But
mean, though. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I think for Cody to be champion now, I tell people this: just because something happens doesn't mean you may understand it, but you don't have to agree with it. That I guess that's my takeaway is that I can understand it, but I'm like I said, I'm not pro or con against it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of like Switzerland, where I'm kind of like I understand why they did it, because if you think about Roman, the most dominant champion, like there's no given people say about, oh, well, he didn't fit. I like go look at just the storyline of this. It's one of the best storylines in company history. He's been arguably a dominant champion. I understand why you had to do it. Like things were moving around. I think you kind of alluded to it earlier. Like things were kind of moving around from a storyline perspective because they were listening to fans. Listen, I'm not saying all of us are. We don't all have to be Mensa to talk about wrestling or anything like that.
Yeah.
But Triple H kind of talked about how something's fan and things. The storyline took a 180. That's how we got Final Boss Rock. But to put a button, I think overall the question is going to be, can Cody be the guy as Roman is in the context of being the champion? I don't want to, because like I said, obviously you're the face of the company, so I don't want to use that terminology. But can he be the guy in the ballpark? Like, I don't think he's going to have like a 3-year reign on the belt. But can Cody?
No.
But can Cody be the guy? Because we always talk about who's going to follow the guy, who's going to follow, and Cody's in that position now.
Both the guys are out right now, right? It's like an interesting thing because like he has to fill the vacuum, the hole left by both Seth and Roman being gone for however long, for the next however many months more, right? So like he not only does he have to be the guy, but he has to be the guy in the absence of the two other guys, like completely, and while other people have been cooking too. Gunther's been cooking, Drew's been cooking, Rhea's been cooking, Bianca's been cooking. So you've got all these other people who are really at the top of their game. How are you going to step in and be the savior that you're supposed to be after winning that title? Like, yeah, it is going to be. It's going to be something, Ladarius. I mean, listen, it's going to be something. And I just want to make it clear before we sign off that like I think it was I think when you have a blueprint in front of you that says this is something that the fans really want and it's going to work for us and it's a way we can finally make some changes that need to be made and we can finally have a fresh start with this belt, like we can finally end this story for Roman. I think I understand that they took it. I understand that was like presented to them and they said, holy, this might be the thing that we have to do, especially if we know we want the fans to want the person who beats Roman to win really bad. Like, and that's fair. So the fact that they did it, I understand. It's not what I wanted, but I understand. And I think in a lot of ways it was the right thing to do. I want to make it clear that I don't necessarily resent Cody's win. I resent the fact that the credit went so much to him in a way that was so over the top. Though I thought it was like a little bit much. And I think that it was that the way it's been talked about has taken away from the people who deserved the credit for the actual storytelling. But that's a thing. That's a way that I perceive storytelling. That's very specific to me. And as somebody who works in TV, who is a writer, who is a creator of like these kinds of stories myself, not in this way, but my whole life is sports and telling stories this way, that maybe I watch it a little bit different than other people do. And like, and I'm okay with that. So I'm always going to be a bit of a shit talker because that's my vibe. That's how I like put forth my energy and how I get into things. And I like to debate and I like to spar. But at the end of the day, I have like an immense level of respect for people who love wrestling and who loved Cody and who felt really vindicated and validated and had an incredible moment in that moment. I'm going to be critical of it. And maybe over time I will change my mind. Maybe I won't. But it doesn't, like, I just want it to, like, I think sometimes people hear the critique and they think that they're getting into it with another one of those wrestling fans who's just going to shit on the thing they love. Right. And it's like, I don't want to be that either. My thing is my thing. But the fact that you had an amazing moment with it and you loved it and you loved all the crying and you loved all the emotion, that's amazing. And if that were for Seth, if that had happened for Seth, I'd be crying too. So like, I completely understand and respect that people feel that way. And I'm glad that we like something that makes us feel that way. Even when it's not me that gets to enjoy the celebration.
Yeah. So yeah. And like I say, to put a button on this, I think overall, and you said something very interesting that to hit on before we head out, is that it's the perspective. I think you come at it from the perspective that you do, and it makes sense because as someone who who writes about the NFL, who writes about women's sport, I writing about sports. It comes down to perspective. It comes down to storylines, literally storylines. So when it comes down to this Cody thing, like I say, not only am I neutral on it, I understand both sides. Because personally, it's how you pull it off. Because to me, it's like I said, I'm big on storytelling. It's how you tell the story.
Yeah.
And if you tell it the right way, fans should understand one way or the other, whether they're Team Cody, whether they were Team Roman, they should understand. But I think there's still a handful who felt like I think the issue was credit. I think to your point, it's just a matter of I get Cody won, but it's like what percentage of credit are we really giving Cody as opposed to literally 3 to 4 other people, maybe 5, in this entire lead up to this match. And I think that's going to be the penultimate question, along with how does Cody do it? Because to your point, he's down Roman, he's down Seth. So is this the position where Gunther gets the thing we all wanted, kind of like that push into the championship picture? Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, you take the belt off of Roman, what happens with Cody? And win, lose, or draw, here we are. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Well, Tanya, I always love having you on. Like I said, I think they came for you, not for me. I was just some guy in a Jade Cargill shirt, and I did some things, and you did. You care. I'll say that you carried a lot of this because I always give you credit for your insight and everything else in between. So I truly do appreciate that. You coming on.
This was awesome. And there's a reason that I only talk wrestling with certain people on a podcast. It's like it can be not fun to talk to certain wrestling fans, and not because they're bad at what they do. Like, it's just you need to talk to people you vibe with when it comes to wrestling, because it's at the end of the day, it is a thing where everybody perceives it a little bit differently. And even if you and I don't agree, we always have really good conversations, and we both have the same vibe when it comes to wrestling, which is that like we're trying our best to enjoy it and find the good and the fun in it rather than the other side of it. So there's a reason I come on and talk to you specifically. And I really appreciate it. You always you let me go on my rants, and I appreciate that too. And, cheers to more good wrestling combos in the future.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, let all the amazing people listening and watching where they can find you anywhere on the internet.
Everywhere on all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Threads. I'm on all those things basically every single day. So you can find like the video and chatting content and my podcast archives, Almost Shameless. You can go back and hear all of those. They're everywhere you listen to podcasts. New episodes may or may not be coming soon. That kind of depends. But regardless, there will be podcast content, whether it's mine, like whether it's Almost Shameless or maybe something else could be in the mix. That'll all be announced always on like Twitter and Instagram specifically, because that's like where I do most of my sports stuff. I talk a lot about sports on TikTok if that's your thing, but also if it's not, don't worry, I'm always doing the same things on Twitter and Threads and Instagram as well. So find me at all those places. I'm the only Tanya Ray Fox. So if there's another one, tell me, because they're definitely impersonating me. There's no other ones.
Like I said, I can attest. I follow you on TikTok, and I follow you. It never gets boring. I'll tell you
Thank
that.
you.
It never gets boring. And like I said, you can listen, subscribe to this episode, every episode of the Sports in the World podcast, socials at Ladarius Brown, both Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, it's Ladarius _Brown. Don't ask me. It's a story for. I don't want to get into it, but thank you all so much for listening and watching to this episode. Thanks to Tanya Ray Fox once again. And until you hear or see me again next time, be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe. From all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.